first gladiators did not fight for crowds. They fought for the dead. In 264 BCE, 3 pairs of slaves were led into the Forum Boarium in Rome. They had been selected by the sons of Junius Brutus Pyrrha to honour their father's funeral. The slaves were given swords. They were told to fight. The one who survived each pair would be spared. For now. This was not entertainment, it was obligation. The blood spilled was meant to nourish the spirit of the deceased. The violence was prayer. The death was offering. No one sold tickets. No one kept score. The family paid for the swords, the bodies, and the burial afterward. Then the crowd went home. It took Rome 4 centuries to transform this small private ritual into an industry that killed tens of thousands annually. The transformation was not sudden. It was administrative. The funeral games grew larger with each generation, not because Romans became crueler, but because they became more competitive. A wealthy family that staged 6 pairs of fighters at a funeral was honouring the dead. A wealthier family that staged 20 pairs was honouring themselves. The dead became a pretext. The living were the audience that mattered. By 174 BCE, the games had expanded to 74 fighters over 3 days. By 65 BCE, Julius Caesar displayed 320 pairs. The funerals had become campaigns. Somewhere in this escalation, the ritual stopped belonging to families. It began belonging to the state. The Republic did not fund gladiatorial combat directly. That would have been unseemly. Instead, it created the conditions under which ambitious men had to fund it themselves. Elections in Rome were expensive. Voters expected to be entertained. A candidate who staged modest games appeared weak. A candidate who staged spectacular games appeared generous, powerful, capable of leadership. The logic was circular and self-reinforcing. The gladiators did not care about elections. They bled regardless of who won. A man named Spartacus trained in Eludus and Capua during this period. He was Thracian, possibly a former auxiliary soldier, condemned or sold into the gladiatorial system for reasons the sources do not agree on. He would later lead a rebellion that terrified the Republic. But before that, he was property, he was inventory, he was scheduled. The system processed him the same way it processed everyone else, until it couldn't. The transition from Republic to Empire changed everything except the violence. Augustus claimed to have staged games featuring 10,000 gladiators over his reign. He also claimed to have restored traditional values. He saw no contradiction. Under the emperors, the games became policy. They were scheduled on the calendar, they were funded by the treasury, they were administered by officials who tracked costs, managed logistics, and filed reports. The spontaneous generosity of the Republic became the bureaucratic obligation of the empire. A document survives from the reign of Marcus Aurelius, listing maximum prices for gladiators by category. The cheapest fighters cost between 1,000 and 2,000 sesterces. The most expensive could reach 15,000. The document is careful and specific. It reads like a procurement regulation. The violence had become a budget line. Gladiators were expensive to train and expensive to replace. The empire needed cheaper deaths. It found them among the condemned. The Noxi, those sentenced to death in the arena, had no value as fighters. They were not taught to parry or evade. They were given weapons that would not protect them, or no weapons at all. Their purpose was not combat. Their purpose was demonstration. A man convicted of murder might be tied to a post and mauled by a starved bear. The bear had been kept hungry for 3 days. Handlers prodded it toward the condemned with heated irons. The process rarely took long. A woman convicted of poisoning might be wrapped in a tunic soaked in pitch and set alight. The flames were visible from the upper tiers. The screaming was part of the program. The sand absorbed what fell. These were not aberrations. They were the morning schedule. The executions were not presented as punishment alone. They were presented as myth. A condemned man might be dressed as Hercules, forced to wear a tunic treated with an irritant, and then burned alive while the crowd watched him writhe. The myth said Hercules died in a poisoned robe. The arena made the myth literal. A man might be cast as Orpheus, seated among docile animals in a pastoral scene, until real predators were released through hidden gates. The tearing began while the musicians still played. The audience already knew how the story ended. They came to watch someone live it. A robber named Laurealus was crucified on stage during a theatrical performance under Domitian. The script called for his death. They used an actual criminal. The crucifixion was not simulated. Someone had written the scene. Someone had approved the casting. Someone had arranged for the body to be removed before the next act. The animals arrived from every province: lions from North Africa, bears from the forests of Germany, elephants from beyond Egypt, crocodiles from the Nile. The logistics alone required an empire. A mosaic from the villa at Piazza Armerina shows the capture and transport of wild beasts. Men use nets, cages, and ships. The animals are bound, hauled, loaded. The images are detailed and practical. They depict an industry. The beast was starved before performance. This was not cruelty for its own sake, it was efficiency. A well-fed lion might not attack. A starved lion would. The outcome was too important to leave to instinct. During the inaugural games of the Colosseum in 80 CE, 9,000 animals were killed over 100 days. The carcasses were hauled away by crews who worked through the night. The sand was replaced. The schedule resumed. The Colosseum was engineered for death at scale. Beneath the arena floor lay the Hypogeum, a network of tunnels, cells, and elevators. Animals were held in cages until their moment. Condemned prisoners waited in darkness, listening to the crowd above. Scenery was raised through trapdoors. Forests appeared. Deserts materialized. Mountains rose from nothing. The machinery required hundreds of workers. Pulleys, counterweights, ramps, and platforms operated in coordination. A single miscue could delay the program. Delays were unacceptable. The engineering was precise. The deaths were not accidental. The system functioned exactly as designed. Water changed everything. In 52 CE, the Emperor Claudius staged a naumachia on the Fucine Lake. 19,000 condemned men were divided into fleets and ordered to fight a naval battle. The lake was surrounded by troops to prevent escape. The combat lasted hours. The men fought because they had been promised that survivors might be spared. Some were, most were not. The bodies floated until they were collected. The spectators watched from the shores. Later emperors flooded the arena floor itself. The Colosseum could be filled with water for smaller naumachiae. Ships were launched. Men drowned. The drains cleared the basin overnight. The next morning's program proceeded on dry sand. The message was not subtle. Rome controlled land. Rome controlled sea. Rome controlled who lived and who died on either. Attendance was not optional. The games were distributed by social class. Senators received the best seats. Equestrians sat behind them. Citizens filled the middle tiers. Women and slaves stood at the top. Everyone was visible. Everyone was watched. The emperor sat in a private box elevated above the crowd but visible to all. His reactions guided the audience. His thumb determined outcomes. The spectacle was not merely for the crowd was part of the spectacle. A Roman who refused to attend risked appearing disloyal. A Roman who appeared disturbed risked appearing weak. The arena taught citizens how to look at death. It taught them to look without flinching. Seneca called the midday executions unbearable, but he watched them first. The games spread across the empire. Every major city built an amphitheatre. Pompeii had one, so did Carthage, so did Londinium, so did 100 towns whose names are now forgotten. The architecture was standardized. The schedules were synchronized with the capital. A citizen in Gaul could watch the same categories of death as a citizen in Rome. The violence was franchise. A graffito survives from Pompeii advertising upcoming games. It lists the number of gladiator pairs, the types of animal hunts, and the availability of awnings for shade. The tone is promotional. The deaths are selling points. The system endured for 5 centuries. Emperors who condemned the games still staged them. Christians who were martyred in arenas eventually built churches atop the ruins. The amphitheatres crumbled slowly, their stones repurposed for houses and fortifications. The killing stopped not because of moral progress, but because the empire could no longer afford it. The last recorded gladiatorial combat occurred in 404 CE. The last beast hunts with condemned prisoners continued into the 6th century. The transition was gradual. The infrastructure outlasted the ideology. There is a relief carved on a tomb outside Rome. It shows a procession of gladiators entering an arena. Their faces are blank. Their postures are identical. Behind them, a figure carries a palm branch, the symbol of victory. The carving does not distinguish between those who will win and those who will die. It cannot. The outcome was not yet determined when the procession began. The outcome was never the point. Rome did not invent killing. Rome invented killing as calendar, as infrastructure, as participation. The arena was where the empire demonstrated what it could do and who it could do it to. The violence was not excess, it was proof. The amphitheatres still stand, the schedules are lost, the names of the dead were never recorded in the first place. The sand was raked, the next event was prepared, the system had already moved on. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. There's more to uncover, hidden by time